reasons. One, me being an entrepreneur, I always believe and feel entrepreneurship is one of the important way forward for someone to aspire for. So, and two, I have three of my very good friends who have been part of this startup community coming and attending the session. The third one being my founder, my partner in crime for the past 10 years is there as well, along with me for this session. So it's I hope it's going to be a lot of interesting things we are going to discuss. There are a few formats which I'm putting in, but I'm just telling you guys, Vaishali Ram, I'm going to go for a free while in between because that would really bring them. I know the kind of work you'll be doing to a certain extent. So I would may actually pick a few questions here and there. Okay. So just bear with me with respect to that. Okay. We'll pick up after. Okay, we'll talk about that laughter. But in the session, yeah, let's be what you call civil. Sure, you have my word. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, guys, before we starting off the session for the people, so I'm going to disable the chat window for now. So just for the sake of being non-disturbing, so I'll enable them at the later point of time, the last 15 minutes, so where you can put up your questions and all that. So we'll pick the questions and we'll try to ask those questions to our speakers and they will answer them. Okay, I hope you all find that and you know that again. Okay, let me start off with an introduction about our speakers. Okay, so let me start off with Ram. So I think I can call you now Dr. Ram, right? So India ISC Bangalore. Okay, so Ram is a co-founder director of SPOVM Technologies. So they are in a very interesting startup, and I believe like very few guys who have really molded their research work or their work which I have done into a venture. I would definitely wanted to know more about that. And he is a kind of a walking encyclopedia, guys. I know that for a fact. And I would want to extract a lot of things from him, and I will be okay to be silent for a few minutes so that he can speak out. And please note, if you are really an aspiring entrepreneur, have a pen and paper ready. There are quite a few data points which you are going to get from Ram, Vaishali, and Naveen, which will help you people note down and take the things forward at a later point of time. Okay, so that is Ram here. Hi Ram, welcome to the session. Hi. Okay, then we have Vaishali. So hi Vaishali. Hi. Just she's joining the session from a very remote location. So there is I don't know, like we'll talk later about how you got there and stuck up there. We'll discuss that later. But then, so because of the network and bandwidth issues, she's not joining through video. She and then she'll join if things works out with the net bandwidth wise. But then, guys, like uh, very few I would say girls are seen with such a kind of what do you call confidence and the ability to put articulate the ideas which they have. And she's one such girl. So when I met her first time in Bangalore, when we all were working in a accelerator program, she's that girl who is like childish at the same time being very serious. We need to be very conscious of which hat she's putting at that point of time. That's what I could say. So, CEO of Melchius, one of the very what do you call well-respected deep tech company in Hyderabad. So they have been working with top-notch industries as well, right from Boeing's and all that, Tata groups and all that. She'll speak more about that in her discussion. But they are the ones who actually are working in AR, VR. Very rarely people venture into that kind of segment. Maybe that's another thing which we have a lot to discuss with them. Okay. Welcome to the session, Vaishali. Thank you for having me here, and I look forward to the session and the conversation. Yes. And one more thing, guys, she is very much our Hyderabadi girl. So that's she has done her graduation in Usmania University. Ram, of course, is from Bangalore, the what do you call the hub of startups in India. But Vaishali here, and then she moved to Bangalore, and all that is there. Then I have with me Naveen. So who is my dear friend, partner of crime for almost like what now 13 years, I guess. So we have co-founded two companies, one Coin Consultants Private Limited, and then this Gold Street. So it's a kind of like maybe Naveen, you're a serial entrepreneur, yeah. I didn't realize that till now. So
Late realization.
yeah. So he's a graduate from Kids Warangal, worked in corporate before coming out and start corporate value labs, coming out and started this venture. So great motivational speaker, TEDx speaker, as it is with Vaishali. He is known for his what you call uh, very much a what you call example based teaching or learning which he would give for his students, and they are kind of becoming a lifelong fans for him, and they have been there still. That's one trait which is there with him and which has been there throughout, and he could sustain that. That's a very special trait. Welcome to the session, C Yoga Ji.
Hi, Pawan.
Hope we'll live up to the expectation in the session.
Hopefully.
Yep. Guys, thanks for all of you for being here. So I'll just start off with Ram. Ram, as I was mentioning, you work which you are doing right now. It started off as a research, right, in your ISC days.
Yeah, correct.
So that's a rare thing to convert a research into a venture and then all that. Okay. So before we go in, just to give a brief about your startup and what you do basically and all that.
Okay. Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me here, and
Brief
I think
about
it's a
your
great initiative
startup
to
and what you do
be able
basically
to
and all
connect
that.
a lot of students. I wish I had
Yeah,
these kind of
so,
sessions when
first
I was
off,
a student, and
thanks for
probably
having
like
me
had these
here.
kind of
And
Brief
I think it's
about
a
your
great initiative
startup
to
and what you do
yeah,
be able
basically
to
and all
connect
everybody
that.
who's
a lot of
participating,
students.
each of the students should
I
know
wish I
that.
had
Yeah,
these kind of
so,
sessions when
first
I
off,
was a student, and
thanks for
probably
having
like
me
had these
here.
kind of
And
Brief
I think it's
about
a
your
great initiative
startup and
to
what you do
be able to
basically and all
connect
that.
a
everybody who's
lot of
participating,
students.
each of the students
I
should
wish
know
I
that.
had
Yeah,
these kind of
so,
sessions when
first
I
off,
was a student, and
thanks for
think
having
deeply about your life and like what you want to do, about a career, about your aspirations, and different things. And yeah, so just to brief about like what Pawan was telling. So me and my co-founder, we were both doing a PhD at IISc Bangalore, and we were so we are by background we are mechanical engineers, and our lab is interdisciplinary lab. So when I say interdisciplinary lab, there'll be a common problem, and there'll be a lot of different departments will be working on that. So there'll be a mechanical engineer, there'll be a biologist, there'll be a chemist, there'll be a physics person, there'll be a person from mathematics. So any real world problem you take, okay, so you actually need an interdisciplinary approach. So say for example, the traffic in Hyderabad or Bangalore, you need the people from computer science, you need people from civil engineering, construction, infrastructure, maybe some fluid mechanics people to get the equations, etc. So that's something that which was inculcated through our initial days of research at IIC. And one thing that me and my co-founder were good at is we excelled in something called as compliant mechanism. So when I say compliant, it is the meaning is flexible. So if you look at any design in nature, say for example, a tree or the kind of support structures that are there, maybe you see the grass or any natural material that you see. They don't have a gear, they don't have a hinge or rivet or a joint. So they're always like one single structure, slender, flexible, and they do a lot of interesting things with the kind of design which is already there. So the man-made design is distinctly different from the natural design in some sense, and our lab was trying to exploit this design technique, and so we came up with a lot of different instruments. So for example, you could make something with a single piece. So the advantage of making something with a single piece is you have fewer components, so there are fewer ways it can fail. So you can just make a single mold. Imagine like you have a plastic mold, you just have one single feature, you pour plastic in it and then remove it, start using it. So these kind of things, advantages are definitely there when it comes to compliant mechanisms. And especially true in the case of say medical devices, say something like you have an endoscope which goes through your mouth and actually goes inside your stomach. It has to pick up some small tissue from inside without damaging the surrounding tissue, and actually bring it out without dropping it or losing it. In the small hole which you have inside of the at the center of the endoscope, you want to be able to send multiple instruments. So many complicated requirements are there. So especially when it comes to medical devices, you don't want to have something like a mechanism which has say 20, 30, 50 different components. So the fewer the number of components, the better it is. So that's where we found that our compliant mechanism technique, which we worked on during our PhD days, is really useful. uh, then one other thing that struck us was, we could just publish a lot of papers, journal papers. So you make something, a new device, then you publish it, like okay, you generate some enthusiasm around that. So a lot of these things were kind of built during our research, and then we found that after everything, it just goes into the shelf. It's getting shelved, so it doesn't actually meet the people who need to use it. Say for example, maybe there is a device which can reduce the cost to a farmer. There could be a device which is a medical device which is made in India, which can reduce the import costs. So now we have a huge impetus on make in India, all that. So right after a PhD, me and my colleague were just thinking like, okay, why not just take a leap of faith? So let's give it a shot. Let's try starting our own company and then trying to do some kind of a medical device, and then see if it actually works out. So we consulted a few companies. Then we found that our designs are really good as compared to the existing designs elsewhere. So that's where we said, okay, fine, let's give it a more serious try. So we narrowed down on what is called as ART. Today, you see infertility is a huge problem, and you see a lot of clinics, ART, IVF or test tube baby centers coming here and there. So if you see the crux of the problem is that the efficiencies have not improved for the past 2 decades. Like 20 years, nothing has improved. There's something definitely wrong, right? So it's like people want to go to Mars today. Now they're thinking of a backup of humanity on Mars. So we are worried about the backup of humanity on Earth. So you see the population dwindling. Now we have this COVID, all these kind of scenarios now. So that led us to actually looking at, okay, so you're an engineer, so you can bring different perspectives. So you look at the hospital like something like a flow chart, like okay, these are the different things that are happening. So this is like the bottleneck. So it's like you put a Ferrari behind a bullock cart. Your Ferrari is gonna go at like 5 kilometers per hour. So you should know where to put your Ferrari, where to put your bullock cart. So these kind of things are not actually like mainstream today. So if you see any clinic run, they will just say like, okay, I have so much headache, I don't want to think about these kind of things. So that's where we kind of look at the latest in technology, latest in science, and we bring those in terms of devices and products to the clinic. So that's what briefly like what we do.
Great, great. Just for the summarizing thing, simple terms, guys. These guys do a lot of bring in a lot of technology into medical devices. Okay, so if you are an engineer and still want to contribute to a different field at a mechanics and biomechanics level, so there are quite a few students across the other branches who are asking. These guys are great examples. These guys are great examples how they can bring in the engineering perspective of different domain and segment into a medical segment, and then use it across and bring a change, what you call impactful change in the sector. That's really great thing which these people are doing. Great, Ram. Vaishali, so you again, you started off. I believe you started off as a services-based company, right? And then migrate to a product-based company.
Yes.
That too in AR VR. So
Yes.
like zoom directly into the deep tech thing. Okay. So can you just help us go through the journey? Give us your story. How is that journey and all that?
How much time do we have? I thought this.
We have the time till 8 o'clock. Don't worry. But start off with the basic story. Then we'll get on to one after another. We'll
Oh
split
my
it.
God. You want me to encapsulate 10 years in like 10 minutes? Okay, I'll try.
We'll try to do that. We'll just a brief intro. Then one step at a time. We'll try to get with all the students. All the things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I started out actually as an engineering student. My co-founder and I, we were friends in college in engineering.
Right.
Osmania University actually. We
Yeah.
were in Vasavi, and and we were just like, the job offers we had, we were like, let's not do this. We know everything, and we want to start our own company. And and the families were like, oh my God, you've gotten these IT job offers. How can you not take those? And you have to work. And we were like, no, we know everything, and we are going to start our company. We know what we're doing. And so we invested in one computer. I don't know if some of the people who've joined in today would even know, those old desktops, which were like the white, huge, yeah, the white, huge monitors, and used to get them for like I think 20,000 or something. That was our first investment. We pulled together all of our pocket money, and that was the first purchase that we made, and we just started the company. So we were working out of a friend's apartment, and we were essentially making web applications for friends and for the first sets of customers who we would get at conferences and expos, etc., where we were like, okay, you have an idea, we'll give it life. And of course we had absolutely no idea what we were doing. We were first generation entrepreneurs, so no idea at all, no understanding of the economics of it. So we had no idea what to charge. We basically would just we just jumped into it head first. And from there, the journey that's been where we grew into the company that we are today, and all the work we've done as a services company, we came to be known as the company to go to for augmented and virtual reality expertise in India, and also in other countries. We were invited to AWE in California. We were the first Indian AR/VR company to be invited there. It's the world's biggest augmented and virtual reality conference, which happens in the Bay Area in California. And so so we did a lot of work in AR/VR services for various companies. We stuck to B2B, and after that, really the shift for moving into products came. Actually, it had been there all along. I think the entire time that we've existed, we must have had 8 to 9 products that we've made which have failed. So there's a whole failure story also, by the way, to learn from. But we were constantly trying to get a product out of the door, which worked, which had potential, and we learned from our mistakes. We ended up doing a lot of things, and I'll talk about some of these later in the conversation. That are not advisable, and that you really shouldn't be doing. Often we put the cart before the horse. So yeah, so there were a lot of learnings, and I think the real jump for us really came when I did this program that Goldman Sachs was sponsoring at the Indian School of Business, ISB in Hyderabad. And I think that was the first time that there was some sort of theoretical knowledge that was imparted to what we were already doing experientially. And that sort of put certain things in perspective, and we realized that there was nothing that we had to wait for. We could just jump into being or pushing the product out of the door. I think one of the fears we had was the money, because when you're a services company, you're able to survive because you have money coming in. And when
Yes.
you become when you stop that, then the cash flow stops, and it's very difficult. And that was one of the hardest decisions for us to take, where we were like, okay, we'll stop this and we'll focus completely on the product development. There were many months, and almost several months of surviving day to day, and it was quite crazy, the entire journey. But and I wouldn't say we're very far from it today also. But yeah, but we basically come to a point where we've pushed Red out of the door. Red is essentially a platform that prepares manufacturing companies for Industry 4.0. The idea around Industry 4.0 is that workers should become literate in not just analog skills, but also digital tools. And this is something that this entire COVID scenario is pushing in our faces like never before. There's been more digital literacy adoption now in enterprises than the last 10 years, I believe, of all the advocacy that has happened. And this, these 2 months and this invisible virus has just forced everybody to become digital, right? So we've been pushing Red as a platform to help these manufacturing companies make their production processes more efficient using the power of extended reality. And there's a lot of training, experiential training built around the entire idea. So so that's essentially what we're doing today. And never know what's in store. And this entire period of COVID has been a lot of learning for us also. So like they say, you never stop learning, you never stop growing. It's been several years, but I'm still new, and I still think this is an entire startup, and we're still figuring out what to do, and we're still learning, and we're still applying that. So yeah.
Great story here. I hope there are so many things to share, guys. One thing I want to tell you, so I've seen their product, I've experienced it, that AR VR ka thing. It's like you put on the goggles and it's like you are completely in a different world here altogether. If you actually are a core into engineering enthusiast and all those things, you can rip apart any pump, any aeroplane, and see part by part, assemble it or reassemble it. It's really completely a different experience altogether. You have to experience it. Right? So that's the only thing I can tell with respect to these people's product. They've been one of the very well respected and very deep tech companies in the AR VR space. Naveen, so you worked in corporate and then you came out and started this. Was it always there in your mind, like I wanted to work sometime and then get on to the entrepreneurial journey, or it's like in the process it evolved? How is that?
So it's like I was means first generation entrepreneur aspirant in my family. So I could clearly understand that my father would only accept if I work for some time and eventually tell him about it. So my core interest was towards training students, okay, which got induced into my brain when I was working in the IT firm Value Labs. And in parallel, I started exploration on various kinds of training programs being conducted at that point of time. I tried writing business plans and working on the market survey, going to colleges, and that's when I met all my four friends, including you, joined in strengthening the idea, and that's how means we all started Coin. But the more important aspect which I wanted to tell to all the students is, guys, when we started Coin, okay, the primary vision was to enhance the employability skills of students. It was, yeah, we were doing good. We were training thousands of students. We added new states, doubled and tripled our clients year and year. But frankly speaking, we were not satisfied, okay, as student was not consistently pursuing the training programs with utmost interest to reach his career goal. Now I think there are around 83 or 80 students in this group, okay. Now if a program has been deployed in your college for around 1 month, okay, will it be every day with the same kind of interest you join and you work on the assignments whichever are given in the training programs? I don't think so. Okay, if you take a batch of 100 people, I could clearly see that 20 to 30 people, okay, have complete clear vision on what they have to do. But the last 30 people, they don't know why they came to the training program. And the people who are in the intermediate level, from 30 to 50 or 60 people, who have interest, but they want to understand where it will take you all. So we were struggling with this, okay, because of this inconsistency in students' goal or discipline. So that's when a small experience happened to us, and just wanted to tell you all how Gold Street happened. Okay, frankly speaking, we are very happy with whatever we are doing till now. Training students, okay, we trained 1 lakh students last year. This year we are training 2 lakhs. Next year we train 3 lakhs. Okay, but as I told you, we were not completely satisfied with the way inconsistency in students taking up that knowledge. So that's where we thought of coming out with a with this platform called Gold Street. So we went on with the program of United Nations, where every training program was taken up as a second step. And the first step was counseling them, giving them a roadmap of, okay, what is your short-term goal? What is your long-term goal to reach your actual career goal? And we like that methodology. Before any training program, a student has to be counseled and make him understand the importance of the training program and where he'll reach if that training program is done. To connect the analogy. Okay. So that's how we thought, okay, let's first counsel each and every student. We did few POCs, like proof of concepts, in few colleges. And trust me, wherever we have first completed the counseling part, gave some guidance, told them that, okay, this training program is important for you to get there. And from there, if you want to get to your career goal, you have to take up this program. And students were completely changed now. They understood, okay, why they have to take up that program. And we could see in the same program which we have taken before counseling and after counseling, it was 30 to 40% of improvement in the impact which we are creating in the training program. So guys, that's when this product called Gold Street got evolved. Okay, so in this product, we discover the goal of a student by making him write some psychometric assessments, okay, and talk to him, okay, on a personalized call, where we will give him all the short-term and long-term goals. Okay, he has to set for himself to reach his career goal. And what is the next step? The next step is he has to acquire the skill. So we provide him free resources from where he can acquire the skill, both on the self-learning platforms and instructor-led platforms. We will also give him the paid platforms, okay, paid resources, which are very nearby to his location, and also the online. Then the next step is he builds his profile, okay, where we actually came out with a concept called PQ. Students, you all know that the only factor which is making you all come up with good percentages is like from first year onwards, you continuously have exams. And if you say that, okay, you don't have an exam from first year to fourth year, and directly in fourth year, you have an exam, okay, which calculates the marks for all the 4 years. Okay. Will you be able to come with such kind of percentages you have? I don't think so. Because every semester you have an exam. Yes, that could create that instinct in you saying that, okay, yeah, okay, so that academic quotient is there parallelly running with you. So that is like that. We also created a concept called profile quotient, which will be on the day you onboard into our portal. From that time, continuously, whatever you do to reach your short-term goals and long-term goals, your profile quotient will be built, which you can showcase to the corporates. So this is how we pivoted from manual training processes we do in our engineering colleges to a new product called Gold Street. Yeah, Pawan.
Great, Naveen. Thanks a lot. Okay, so before we getting into the startups and other journeys, I'll still remain at this core important question about what is it take to be an entrepreneur? What skills or abilities someone should really have? Like, how would I know that I'm an entrepreneurial material as such? Is it an inborn thing or it's built? It can be built over the years. How is that? So this is a big question which has been there for me as well when I was there. I'm sure it's a very important question quite a few of the students have. Ram, can you just start off with you? Then I'll ask the same question with other people. How is that with you? What does it really take to be an entrepreneur?
Okay, so see, there are different connotations to what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So I'll just give you my thought process, but it's totally like my take on it, but it'll definitely differ with other people also. So one of the things about being an entrepreneur is being able to build something, putting your thoughts and putting your ideas which the world can use. Okay, so that's actually a very it's like an aha moment for you. Okay, so for example, you build some be it a product or a website or anything. So nothing beats the idea of like so you give a product to somebody and they use it, and they at the end of it they come to you and say, Ram, I really like the product. It actually solved some pain point for me. Like, I was trying to do this for so many days, I couldn't do it. So a parent comes to you and says like, wow, my child is much more clearer than about what he or she wants. So that's like really, really satisfying at the end of the day. So I think entrepreneurship is all about having that desire to actually manifest some idea that you have into a product. So one of the thing is about the idea itself. You don't need to have like an idea to start becoming an entrepreneur. So you look at a problem. So if you look at most of the big companies out there, like be it Google, Apple, like TCS, HCL, anybody out there, like, so they started off with a desire to actually build something to either a customer or like to the population in general. So be it a services or a product industry. Then they got better at it, and they're wherever they're right now. So like even the case of Naveen, even the case of Vaishali, whatever she was, whatever they were telling. If you listen to them clearly or like carefully, it's not that they had a very clear vision that okay, we are going to start up this VR thing. So they started off with something, then they evolved, then they actually find something saying that okay, there is much more meaning and value in it. Then we're trying to add more and more value. So at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is about creating value and actually benefiting from that. So that's my take on what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
And like, how to know? Like, I'll just stay with you for one more minute because I really wanted to know. How do I know that I am that entrepreneurial material? How is that?
So I think at some level it's crazy. So when I say crazy, so what I really mean is, so first thing is, it depends on a lot of factors, like a lot of boundary conditions, I would say. So one thing is like you would want to have you will want some deep desire. So you may not want that conventional office setup where you have a box and you work within the box. So you always want to say do things differently, or like do something unique, something of your own, etc. So if you have this urge for doing something of your own, and then if making something new excites you, I think that's probably like a very good indication that you are going to be a great entrepreneur. But otherwise, if you see that the world is full of problems, you kind of keep cribbing a lot about like, oh, this is not working, that's not working, etc. I think if you go one step beyond, like, okay, this is not working, what would work? So if you think that you can make a solution, and if somebody is ready to pay money, part with their money for your solution, I think that's a very good indication that you are somewhere in this journey.
Great, Ram. Guys, remember this point. It is not that you're finding a solution, but finding a solution where people are ready to pay money for that solution. So that is a very key thing whenever we are talking about an entrepreneurship. At the end of the day, we are not here to do a charity. We have to make a kind of add a value to the customer and take a value for yourself. So you have to do new things and get a value out of it and give a value for it. Then only you'll get a value out of that. That's a great perspective, Ram. That's Vaishali.
I actually just
Take on
want
this question.
Yeah, I just want to pipe in and say I loved what Ram and you said about value creation. That's brilliant. Really, entrepreneurship is hugely. It's all about value, right? But I just want to make a quick distinction between how I define entrepreneurship, and I'm going to separate it from the idea of starting a company or being an entrepreneur, right? So for me, entrepreneurship is something that I believe everybody has. It's a way of life, so to speak. I believe it's the idea of being able to take initiative wherever, however you are. You could be a student, you could be an engineering student, and you could have entrepreneurial skills in you. When you're going out and you're taking courses apart from your college curriculum, when you're going out and attending events where you'll get to meet people from the industry, where you're going out and taking part and taking out your evening to attend webinars like this where you can learn something, where you take an initiative to do something in class or to make a difference. There's so many things you can do. The idea is taking initiative, taking ownership and responsibility, and going ahead and doing something, right? And you could do this, like I said, as a student. You could do this in a corporate situation where you're, it's in fact, it's defined as entrepreneurship, where you're in a team and you have to take decisions, where you have to take the lead on something, where you take initiative. it's all around that, right? A woman who is a homemaker, she's an entrepreneur too, in that sense. She has to take decisions daily on, what to make, what not to make, and with this whole Corona situation, for example, what vegetables are available, what's not, what's, how do you best optimize, then who to delegate duties to within the house. There's just so much involved, right?
Right.
So just going back to the idea of entrepreneurship, it's something that I believe all of us possess, right? Um, as a lifestyle, it's a way of life, and you feel that you don't have it, you build upon it. It's about going out of your comfort zone and taking initiative. On the other side of the coin, with regards to starting a company, I completely believe that it is all around value, right? As Ram said, you are giving value. It's a give and take, right? It's basically an exchange. It's a barter system. That's how business has always been run. You give something of value to somebody else, and they give you value in return. It could be money, it could be friendship, it could be, whatever this is. This is, all of life is around a give and take system. And if you look at startups aren't about, okay, so we're going to start a company and we'll be famous and people are going to call us to their colleges to talk, and we'll be TEDx speakers and we'll raise so much money and we'll get funding. That's not what a startup is about. Starting a company is about starting a company. It's starting a business. It's something where you're trying to create something of value with somebody, like Pawan said, will pay for, because that's how monetary transactions or business transactions work. You could be a social entrepreneur where you're also doing something of social value, but even social entrepreneurs charge for it, right? It's not charity, because then you're an NGO. If that's the way you want to go, that's great too. But the idea of starting a business is such that there is a give and take of value, and you're able to build a sustainable system. It's not an overnight story, and it's not about how much money you raised. It's about creating a sustainable business. And that is essentially what a lot of startups, I believe, today forget. And a lot of and it's become cool now to have a startup. I remember when I was starting a company, everybody thought I was a fool, and now it's cool. And you know how the world changes in a few years. But those are absolutely the wrong reasons to start a company. You're not cool. You're still a fool, by the way. That bit has not changed. Like Ram said, you have to be a little crazy. But the idea is you need to know why you're doing this, and it's not an easy journey. In fact, one of the Twitter founders, he says, behind every overnight success is 10 years of blood, sweat, hard work, and tears, which nobody talks about, because that's really the truth. We're not all Mark Zuckerberg and one day, suddenly become Facebook. How many other startups are there out there? In fact, there are statistics where, they say that 97% of all startups shut down within the first 3 years, because they're not able to sustain. They realize that they're not able to create a sustainable business. And you know what? That's okay too. Failure is all about learning. A lot of the issue around startups today is also, I believe, the idea of the fear of failure. We're so scared of what people will tell us, and they'll be like, oh, I told you so, and you were never meant to do this, and you don't know how to do anything. And there's so many negative connotations attached with failing, which also makes people become very scared around pivoting. So Ram mentioned, we pivoted a lot, and plenty. And in fact, I even mentioned early on that there were plenty of products that we created and they failed. So there was a lot of pivot involved, right? So the idea is being flexible, being able to understand what the need is. That you're not creating something in a lab like a mad scientist and you expect that the world will buy it. We're not all Apple. No, we aren't. So you need to make something that somebody needs and somebody will pay for. And then once you see that this is a problem that could be replicated across different entities, you realize you could make a business out of it. That there are, okay, these many number of people who have the same problem and I can solve it, and they're all willing to give me value for it in return. And that's how you build a product, or that's how you start your journey. So it's essentially all around making a sustainable business.
Great, great. Guys, remember, like I just tried to summarize what Vaishal is saying. We started off with spirit. Yes, especially we Indians are known for our jugados models. We all have that entrepreneurial spirit. We all have our own ways of doing the things. Do that in different parts of life, different walks of our life. Everybody does that in their own way. So that is one key thing we have to do. But there are few who would go to the next, graduate to the next level, make it up into a company. Make it up into a company in a way that it creates a value to the people which it intended to make. That is one part of the story. And then for that, they are willing to pay. That is another part of the story. The third and most important part of the story is they should be able to consistently do that. You should be able to consistently generate value, and they should be willing to pay for you in a consistent manner. And as a whole, this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take years and years of perseverance. There's quite a few examples. So for every startup which we see has got funded, there are hundreds of startups which lost the journey and they're actually closing down. It's all about understanding, if you want to really be an entrepreneur, that perseverance, patience, consistent effort, irrespective of what people may say. They may call you fool today, tomorrow they will call you cool once you have all the things, but still you are the same person, neither the fool nor the cool. You are that guy who is crazy, doing your own way of things. That is the only thing. Okay, so it is like you have to find your own way, you have to believe in your own way. That's when you actually can do that. Okay, Naveen, I'll definitely want you to add few points here, because this is the core essence which I keep hearing from students, like whether I can do it or not and all that. That's the reason I'm staying on this question. Please, I mean, your perspective on this.
Vaishali, you nailed it. Frankly speaking, you have showed the other perspective. Other than starting a company, the entrepreneurship journey and all, okay, you actually took the crux of how every person has an entrepreneurship quotient. Okay, that was really good. And I just wanted to take a small one example, students. It's like I had a major accident, okay, 7 years back, and I had to hire an auto full time for at least 7 to 8 months. Okay, and that auto driver, see, I would have gone with many auto drivers previously also, but that auto driver was really awesome, guys. Okay, I'll tell you. See, what is that entrepreneurship spirit? Okay, what is that qualities which makes a person differentiated to be an entrepreneur? Okay, his ideas and thought process. Okay, he has a kid who was studying engineering. Okay, and he wanted to send him for masters. Okay, so he decided to work for 4 to 5 hours more. Okay, at what time? In the night. So now, while we were coming, because every day 1 hour he used to leave me at my office. So every day, so whenever we start our journey with discussions. Okay, how much did you earn today? Okay, he used to tell awesome ideas of, okay, at 1 o'clock a train will come. At that time, I go to that station. Okay, at that time, compulsorily they will pay triple the amount, sir. Okay, and when sometimes he says, sir, today it is going to rain, so I have to pay at this place, okay, so that I'll get more money and the customer will pay more. I was shocked. Okay, why is he thinking like that? Okay, and I used to ask, Are, you are going so far, if it is not there, no, don't mind, sir, I have tried it in best of its form. Okay, what? Not only that guy, I used to see few other, recently in the COVID season also, we used to have a Sunday market, okay, every week. And there would be one lady who used to sell vegetables. Now in COVID, there is nothing like a Sunday market now. Okay, now vegetables, it was very tough for her. Trust me, she has gone with so many innovative ideas. She spoke to the apartment people, and she took phone numbers of everyone. She started calling those people and asking, what all do you need? I was shocked. So every person has the appetite of entrepreneurship, guys. The only thing which matters is how they are fine-tuning it on a daily basis, every second, how they are fine-tuning it. Back propagating with the errors, again doing it. Back propagating with the errors, again doing it. And if you have that small metal of continuously back propagating and doing something, you are an entrepreneur. And setting a company is all about creating value and getting financial profit, as those people have told. Okay, so if you have that trigger, guys, just go ahead, okay, and improve it to the maximum level. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Naveen sir, for the Trigger Show program.
I think that's neural networks.
Yeah, right, Ramnath.
Okay, great guys. Like, I hope you all have understood their perspective. You have to formulate your own perspective, but at the essence is core. It is you have to have that spirit and have the perseverance to take it forward. Okay, I'll go back to your college days for each one of you. So Vaishal was mentioning certain things because that's when also I've got tempted to ask the question, but I stored it for later. So what all things you have done during your college days, learned, done, or whatever it is during your college days or education days, which you think are helping you in your entrepreneurial journey now? There could be what all things. It could be anything. Just a random the thought which I had, but I'm sure you would have done quite a few. Ram, I know few examples. I know you would touch base. Otherwise, I'll definitely ask that. Okay. So I'll start with Ram and then I'll move to other people.
Okay. So yeah, I think I'll just go back to the kind of things I was explaining. That you build something which people want to use, and you like that, and people kind of support it, and you get kind of encouraged. It's basically like a positive feedback loop. So one thing is like during so I'm a mechanical engineer by training, but during my undergrad days at NIT Trichy, I happened to be a part of the web team, which builds the website for nitt.edu. So that's how I got introduced to web. So I learned, I picked up PHP, HTML. So I'm just curious, so I just keep learning whatever is kind of interesting for me at any given point of time. So one nice thing about the web is that you can actually put out your ideas out in the public, and it's instantly open to the entire world. So I think that kind of is a very interesting superpower to have these days. Like if you know a little bit of web, just pick it up, HTML, CSS, anything. So one thing from there on is like during towards the end of our college, so we built a website, me and my brother. So basically, I'm from Tamil Nadu, and we have this Anna University counseling, and there is usually a season where people, I think it's there across the different states also. We also tried looking at Andhra universities, etc. So basically, I'm a student. I'm an engineering student, and I know my cutoff, and I want to know which all colleges can be available for me. Okay, so this information was not available. This was given in a very construed format on the website. So what me and my brother did was we just downloaded all the data. We put up a website where a person goes there and just gives their cutoff, and they get to know like what colleges they get. And this was just a curiosity experiment. Basically, like the best way to learn something is actually to practice. So this was a practice website in some sense. So we deployed the website, and to our surprise, it crashed in 10 days. The server crashed. So we thought it's like a bug. Then actually we found that there were like too many people who accessed it. We had exceeded our bandwidth. Then we upgraded the server, again crashed. Then we moved to a unlimited bandwidth, a little bit of money from our pocket. So then I think this was something like very interesting when we did something like a hobby. Basically, like over the weekends we used to work, but the kind of responses that you get from the students, like they say, "Wow, this kind of changed my entire journey in life. I was able to land in the right college. If not for this website, I'd have actually taken some other course. If not for this, something would have happened." So parents kind of started giving calls. So they'll just give a call and say, "Is this like okay? This website, yeah." Oh, then thanks a lot. I was able to counsel. I went with your app into the counseling hall, and it actually made a lot of difference and all that. So you feel like wow. Okay, so to this date, I think the website is still running. We maintain hardly, but I think it is still surviving. So, but something towards this, we did a few experiments during our ISC days also. So we put up a few innovative solutions. We kind of solved some issues for some companies. We consulted some companies. So basically, as students, so for any student out there, your biggest learning is going to be the kind of education, kind of experience that you have. So education is like bookish. Experience is like what you actually try out and then get your hands dirty, and then like you try to make something, you break, and then after a few iterations it starts working. Be it a very simple electronic circuit, or you have a bot, you have a code, you have a software, you have a website, whatever it is. Try to get your hands on. Okay, so that's much more valuable. So I would prefer a guy who has learned machine learning for 6 months, but who has tried hands on for 1 year, rather than somebody who has learned machine learning for 1.5 years and not had a hands on, like zero hands on. So I think that's probably like one of the key takeaways which helped me later on. So during our college days, we also kind of participated in a few competitions, like the Baha SAE, and we won a few awards there. And we also participated in the Mahindra Rice's self-driving car challenge. We were the only private team which went to the finals, and those were all like small lessons. So this is a lesson in building a team, for example. So when you have like your friends, you cannot ask them, hey, Pawan, can you just do this? Like Pawan will say, "Arey yaar, I'm busy." Like, okay, then you have to figure out like how to get it done. Like, okay, see Pawan, I have this question. Like, can you solve it for me? He says, "Oh yeah, I'm happy to solve it for you." So small things like basically you will learn. Try to indulge yourself. Try to get your hands dirty with as many things as you can. So take up some internship, take up some classes. So I used to go and teach kids, and the kind of questions they ask is always like intriguing. So you thought something is so obvious, and they ask you when they ask you like why is it obvious, like you actually think that it's not obvious, and you probably have just memorized it by heart and things like that. So
Today at
I think
Binomo,
those are
we
kind of the
work to make
critical
trading
one or two
accessible and
few pieces of
convenient.
lessons that happened during the college
అసలు
days,
వేరే
which
వాళ్ళ వీడియోని మన
kind of
ఛానల్లోకి
helped
ఎలా
me
యాడ్
later on
చేసుకుంటాం అనే కదా మీ
during my
డౌట్.
startup.
సో
Like
చూపిస్తాను
even
నేను.
today, a
ఇప్పుడు
lot of
నేను
these bits
చెప్పాను
and
కదా
pieces
ఆల్రెడీ
I keep
మై
going
విలేజ్
back
అనే
to them
ఛానల్
and
గురించి.
referring them and kind
ఇప్పుడు
of learning
ఈ
from
వీడియో
them.
తీసుకుందాం. ఈ వీడియో బాహుబలి ట్రైలర్ రియాక్షన్ అనమాట.
Vaishali, do you have anything
అయితే
to add
ఈ
here?
వీడియోని
I know you have
రాజమౌళి
been
అండ్
quite
రానా
a few
చూసి ట్విట్టర్లో
what
ఫేస్బుక్లో
call
ట్వీట్ చేశారు.
all-rounder in your
సో
college days.
వీడియోకి అంత పాపులారిటీ వచ్చింది. సో ఇంత
How do
పాపులారిటీ
you
వచ్చిన
know
వీడియో
that?
నేను నా సబ్స్క్రైబర్స్ కూడా చూపించాలి
So
కాబట్టి
we
ఈ వీడియో మీద క్లిక్
what do you
చేసి
call?
ఈ
Yeah,
వీడియో
but
లింక్
eyes
అది
everywhere.
కాపీ చేసుకొని
Inside us.
ఇది క్లోజ్ చేసేసి సపోజ్
He's like
నేను
he's like
నా
Big
ఛానల్
Brother or
కిందకి
something.
వచ్చినట్లయితే ఇక్కడ క్రాస్ ప్రమోషన్ అని
Yeah,
చెప్పి
so
ఒక
I was
ప్లేలిస్ట్
actually just
ఉంది.
going
ఈ
to say that
ప్లేలిస్ట్లో యాడ్ చేద్దాం అనుకుంటున్నాను.
the first thing
సో
I was going to
నేనేం
say is bunk
చేస్తానంటే
classes.
పైకి వచ్చేసి మళ్ళీ
I told
ప్లేలిస్ట్
that
అని ఒక ఆప్షన్ ఉంది కదా, అక్కడ క్లిక్
Censor it,
చేస్తున్నాను.
censor it,
ఈ
censor it.
ప్లేలిస్ట్లో యాడ్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నాను కాబట్టి
But
క్రాస్
what I
ప్రమోషన్ అనే
really mean is,
ప్లేలిస్ట్లో
to be honest, I think having a healthy balance between academics and extracurriculars is extremely important. Something that a lot of students today are forgetting. Especially in Hyderabad, there is this concept of, and let me not name the schools, but there are these certain schools which operate from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I honestly am completely against that kind of education, because all you're doing is making robots out of humans. After that, there is nothing left in the brain to think, any capacity to absorb any information or to even process it. Then you're just a drone which is, imbibing information and vomiting it out. That's it. There's no processing happening, and that's not what we want. We need to have a healthy, developed personality, because it's not all about your marks in your exams. That's important, but there are other things that you also need to have a healthy balance around. You need to be able to understand, like Ram mentioned, he used to go and teach students. That's great, because they say that you learn more by doing and by teaching it forward than you learn by just the process of learning, reading and listening, right? You guys should look up the pyramid of learning. And taking part in certain events, doing internships, that's very important. That's something that every engineering student, in fact, is supposed to do as part of syllabus. But you need to go out above and beyond, the one designated internship that your syllabus asks you to do. Go out and beyond that. You have other summer holidays too. You have your winter holidays too. Or if you can do a part-time sort of internship during your college days, that's something that you can do, because you're learning hands-on. If you feel like, okay, I might be interested in so and so industry after I graduate, then start getting real insights into that industry. You cannot get everything from Google and from reading, right? You need to go out and experience things. So if you believe that there's a particular kind of industry that you may be interested in, go and explore it. If you don't like it, great, you'll figure it out in a month itself, just as an internship. And the practical experience of working with people, understanding how companies work, that's gold. You wouldn't even get that through your books. It's so important to make an effort to go above and beyond your syllabus also. So for example, if you're a computer science student and you have artificial intelligence, you have deep learning and all of that, great. But if you don't have augmented reality, virtual reality, or any other technology that you hear of, big data, go out and learn about it. There's so many courses available online. There's so many organizations offering you data around it, just to get a sense of, okay, these are all the options out there. Because beyond college, you could end up doing a master's, you could end up joining a job, you could end up starting a company, whatever it is, you need to know what you're getting into, to get a little bit of research information around it, instead of just jumping headlong into something and being like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm saying this from experience. So me, in spite of doing so much of so many internships outside and interacting with so many kinds of people, I did a part-time experience, part-time job also. And in fact, we even designed a Facebook application while in college, which is what started the entire idea for the company. Still, there was so much that I had no idea, going into it. And today, all of you are, like Ram was saying, so much more fortunate than we were. Because everybody around us is talking about entrepreneurship. Everybody's talking about startups. Universities are offering these, they have these startup labs within universities, and they're encouraging you to speak to people who are entrepreneurs who've been there, done that. There are people who are invited to universities to talk. Companies, like Gold Street here is doing, introducing you to people like us. Like, this is golden. Like, this is the kind of opportunity that you want. This is the kind of learning that you want. And so, yeah, the one thing I would stress on is, remember that your college life is important. It's the stepping stone between your free, even though I'm pretty sure right now you don't think you're free, but you're very free. Take it from me. You're very free right now. You have no idea what's coming. But it's sort of like your stepping stone before you step out into the big bad world. And and it's really these few years which are very formative, which help you set the foundation for who you will be going forward. And that's a constant process, but this is really the time which you can use to understand who you are, to understand what your interests in life are, shutting out the noise that you have around you. Just because your friend is doing an MS, you should also do it. Just because your girlfriend is going to the US, you also have to follow her. Just because your best friend is starting a company, you also have to do it. No, like, shut out all of this noise, shut out. And of course, it's easier said than done. I know there's a lot of parental pressure also, where you're being forced to take certain jobs or forced to follow their dreams. But you need to sit down, figure out what is it that you want, cutting out all of this noise. And once you know what you want, it becomes much simpler to explain it to other people, especially your family. It's something I've experienced, where I realized that, when you are not in doubt, when you know what you're doing, or at least are able to present that front, people have that confidence in you because you have confidence in yourself. If you're constantly doubting yourself, it's very easy for other people to point fingers at you too, because you are your own best friend. If you don't know yourself, you don't know what you're doing, why you're doing, how can you expect your parents or teachers or friends to believe in you? They won't. It starts from you. Charity begins at home. You are your own best friend. You need to know what you want, why you want it, shutting out external noise to whatever extent is possible, and then going after it. And as far as starting a company is concerned, as all of us have reiterated again and again, the idea is that you need to be prepared for the long haul. Be prepared that it will be difficult, that it will be very tough, that it will be a journey of failures. You might be very alone a lot of times, but the idea really is, know what you're getting into and be prepared for it. There's still a lot of unknown out there. There are many things that we often find ourselves, absolutely at a loss for. You don't know what's happening, and you're struggling and you're grappling with things. But the idea is to be prepared for that scenario, that this could also happen, that there will come a time where I will feel like this is the end of the world and I have no idea what to do now. You need to be prepared to know that that will happen and be ready to face it. And that's really what you need to know going into this. when you're in a job, there's a cushioned environment. You learn. There is a certain level where you're contributing to the team, to the company. There is safety, there is security, there is the comfort in getting a salary at the end of every month. There are a lot of benefits attached to it, right? A lot of mental benefits also. And then and then you look at the other side where you have to be responsible for your own decisions, where there's no one else to take the fall, where you're literally the last buck. The buck stops here. And you're the one who's also now responsible for other people. If you have employees or if you have customers and all of that, it's a responsibility. It is. So if you're not prepared to take that on, rethink what you're doing and why you're starting up. And at the end of all of this, I will circle back to one thing. Try in these 4 years of your engineering life or whatever degree you're doing, to know yourself, why you're doing what you're doing. A lot of us have ended up in engineering, I know, also because of parental pressure or
ఈ క్రాస్
issues
ప్రమోషన్ అనే
around
ప్లేలిస్ట్ మీద
we
క్లిక్
didn't know
చేసి
what we were doing, so
ఇక్కడ
well, we just
యాడ్
did
వీడియోస్
engineering.
అంటుంది.
Okay, maybe, but now that you're here, everything happens for a reason. You've come to this place, you have these opportunities, you are the person you are. Use it to figure out what is it that you want next, and the only person who can answer that is you yourself. And that's what I would say. Use your college time to find that about yourself. And if that takes you across the country, across the state, maybe other countries for internships or experiences, go ahead and do it with whatever is possible. There are plenty of opportunities today out there, even for those who are not able to financially sponsor, say, going to another city or state. There may be companies offering internships which are paid, and plenty of that happens abroad also. There are organizations like ISEC which give you internships abroad, which help you get them. So there are plenty of opportunities today. You just have to go out and look for it, and don't expect that things will fall on your platter while you're sitting there, and then one fine day you'll wake up and you'll realize, okay, college is done, now what? Oh, let's start a company. That's not how this will work. And I can tell you that right now.
Great, Vaishali. So I wouldn't dare to summarize that. You have done it. Okay. So, like, before we get into the last leg of question, there are 3 important questions which I wanted to ask you people. I would pick
మీరు దేని ద్వారా లైవ్ చేస్తారు?
the
ఫేస్బుక్
answer for that, so that we can quickly get to the next final Q&A stage. So, like, when is Ram? I go with when is the right time?
జనరల్ గా మనం యూట్యూబ్ లో లైవ్ చేయాలి అంటే మన దగ్గర 100 సబ్స్క్రైబర్స్ ఉండాలి. 100 సబ్స్క్రైబర్స్ ఉంటేనే మనకు లైవ్ అనేది వస్తుంది ఆప్షన్. మీరు 100 సబ్స్క్రైబర్స్ లేకపోయినా కూడా లైవ్ ఎలా చేయొచ్చు అనేది ఈ వీడియోలో చెప్తాను. సో దానికోసం నేను ఒక యాప్ చెప్తాను. ఈ యాప్ యూస్ చేస్తే చూస్తున్నా దగ్గర ఇంకొక అకౌంట్ ఉంది యూట్యూబ్ కి సంబంధించి. సో అంటే ప్రైవేట్ లో పెట్టి చేశారు. మీరు ప్రైవేట్ లేకపోయినా లైవ్ చేయడానికి కెమెరా ఫై లైవ్ అనే ఈ యాప్ దొరుకుతుంది. లింక్ నేను కింద డిస్క్రిప్షన్ లో ప్రొవైడ్ ఇస్తాను. మీరు స్టార్టింగ్ ఇలా ఓపెన్ చేసిన తర్వాత మీకు ఇటువంటి ఒక స్క్రీన్ వస్తుంది. వచ్చిన తర్వాత ఇక్కడ మీకు స్టార్ట్ బటన్ ఉంది చూస్తారా, దాన్ని ప్రెస్ చేయొచ్చు. లేదా ఇక్కడ మీరు దేని ద్వారా లైవ్ చేస్తారు, ఫేస్బుక్ ద్వారానా యూట్యూబ్ ద్వారానా? సో నాకు యూట్యూబ్ కావాలి కాబట్టి యూట్యూబ్ ఉంటుంది. అక్కడ మీ ఈమెయిల్ అడ్రస్ ఇచ్చేసి సైన్ అవ్వాల్సి ఉంటుంది. సో నేను నాకు బటన్ ప్రెస్ చేసిన వెంటనే నా కెమెరా అనేది ఆన్ అయిపోద్ది. ఓకే, సో ఇలా కెమెరా స్టార్ట్ అయిపోయిన తర్వాత మీరు చూడండి, ఫ్రంట్ క్యామ్ కావాలంటే ఫ్రంట్ క్యామ్ చూస్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. తర్వాత వచ్చేసి
I think one of the nice things that have happened, like for the information of all these students here, is that the ecosystem in the entire nation today has changed dramatically. Like, there is a lot of opportunities for new students to start up. Like, okay, if for example anybody here is interested, who has their own product, like it can be their final year project, it can be an idea in their head, you could just apply for a lot of these incubation centers which are there. So there are these centers across IITs, NITs, a lot of different private engineering colleges. A lot of colleges have incubation centers. All you have to do is just go and say, I have this idea, I want to build a product, I want to build a team, I think it is possible. So you when you go there, you connect yourself to the ecosystem. So there's a saying, I think something like you are the average of the top 4 or 5 people you mingle with. So I think surround yourself with enough of these kind of people. So get mentors. These people want to help others. So anybody who has been there, done that, they want to share their knowledge, they want to share their experience, they want to also learn what is happening new in this field. So I think if you have that interest, or if you have even a slightest feeling that you could actually start up, just connect with these ecosystems. Depending on how things turn out, you will actually have a good indication of whether it's a good time for you to venture in or not. But that said, I think maybe like a few years ago, it was a very tough thing to start, and it was actually like a taboo kind of a thing. Like so there was a joke like people ask like what are you doing, and I say I'm an entrepreneur. They say like, okay, you're basically unemployed. So that no longer holds. Okay. So today the situation has turned a lot in favor of entrepreneurs, in some sense that the government is willing to actually create a lot of startups, empower a lot of startups, and think of it in one way that startups creating a company is indirectly opportunity to give a lot of jobs, create a lot of wealth for the nation. Like when you create IPs, or when you create patents, when you create a product that sells, you're going to generate, you're going to empower a lot more people, okay, than being a part of a team. So if you think that, okay, you have the slightest urge to do that, connect with the right kind of people. Just don't bother. Just give Pavan a call, or like give Naveen a call, and say, Anna, like I want to do this. Like these people will connect you with the right kind of mentors, or right kind of ecosystem. Just have that in the back of your mind. It's good to start early. Like don't worry if you're in the final year, second year, third year. It doesn't matter. Just give it a shot. Like what Vaishali was saying. You're not very sure. Okay, just take up a internship in a company. You will actually be in a company. You will see in a startup. You will see what is happening there. What is a startup like? What goes around in a startup? Like you would have seen like a lot of these big budget movies where like you have like very posh offices, and like cool Apple or Mac computers, and like everybody chilling out with Coke, etc. Nothing like that happens. So you have like what Vaishali said, one computer, three people working on it, part-time basis, 24/7 coding on that com, and part-time that will be also the server for running your website, etc. But I think it's a very constrained ecosystem. But if you think you're up for some challenge, give it a shot. There are now ways where I think colleges are also encouraging this. So I know of a few colleges where they say you can give entrepreneurship a try for 1 year, and if you don't succeed, if you think that is not the right approach for you, the next year you can come for the placements. Like you can sit along with your juniors for say attending interviews, etc. I think that's a really good opportunity out there. Like that gives a safety net in some sense. So I think the crux of it is like when you have the itch, scratch.
When you have the itch, scratch it, don't wait. Great, great. Oh, we have Vaishali live in the video as well. Great. Vaishali, quick question for you. Top 5 things someone should keep in mind when they're doing the starting their startup journey.
One, have a problem which you can solve and you think you're the best person to solve, and and the person who you're solving it for is willing to give you money. Then yes, then consider doing it. Two would be figuring out whether, like I said, you have what it takes in terms of patience and perseverance, to stick around when, like they say, the censored word hits the fan. Um, I think third would be to have self belief, and to not keep doubting your own decisions. There are plenty of other people to do that for you. You don't have to do it to yourself. So if you've taken a decision, stick by it. Don't keep questioning yourself after you've taken a decision. The idea is to take decisions, whether they're right, wrong, time tells you, and everything is a lesson. But take that decision and then stick by it. So definitely self belief. I think fourth would be money. We may like to think that it's we don't need money to start up and all of that, but at the end of the day, you need a runway. You need to be able to sustain. You need to be able to eat. You don't want to be one of those bootstrapped entrepreneurs who are basically sacrificing their health for their journey or for their dream, because that doesn't come back. There's a joke which says we spend our entire lives giving our health to earn money, and then we spend our money to earn our health back, and that doesn't really happen. So I would say, yeah, at least have your survival bit sorted. So if you have a job on the side, or if you have some money saved up, or if you have someone bankrolling you, or if you have a customer that's the best customer paying you, willing to a lot of customers do these kind of pilots where you can charge them to do a particular project. Or if you find an angel investor early on, that's brilliant. So yeah, fourth would definitely be money, and I think the last would be the right team. You definitely should have co-founders. I would say that there are plenty of battles that you need to fight in life alone. This is something that you don't need to. It's great to have people around you who have complementary skill sets, and who are you're able to take it together and forward as a team. Because it's really the team that that can survive in the long haul. It's not one individual. So yeah, so the fifth probably would be having the right team, or at least having a team in the first place. Right or wrong, you'll probably figure out later.
True. Great. Naveen, your top five things which you think are needed when you go into the startup journey.
Nothing different from what Vaishali has told, but it's like students, rather than getting excited with the solution they have, it's really important for them to work on the problem to its core, and do their surveys well, marketing surveys, and talk to as many customers as they can in understanding the pain point and whether they're easily solving it or not, whether their solution is solving it or not, or rather than just going towards the solution, first dig into the problem really deep and take time for it, and that would be the start. That means having it in its right position. Okay, and the second point is packaging it well when we are sending it to the market. That is the second important thing. What I felt, okay, this, I have a very good solution. Let me just send it into the market. Rather than being like that, okay, once they find that solution, they have to package it well to the customer. So if they can work on the product market fit, and in the second level, that would really help them out. Okay, I think with all the points what Vaishali has told, she has taken everything. So these 2 points were left for me.
Okay. So penalty for being the last. Okay. Okay. Fine. So before, I think there are quite a few questions that are coming up. But I think one of the question which is there, which in ways I'll mention use, is about funding. We keep hearing in the news channels and all that X company got that much funding, this guy got billions of dollars of funding and all that. And then we always, at least the aspiring entrepreneurs, that's the first hitch they say, like, yeah, when I'm going to get that name and fame and all that. So like, can you just elaborate of the myths or do's and don'ts, or how they should be thinking at this funding perspective? Maybe I'd start with Ram and then Vaishali can add on.
Yeah, okay. So I think it's kind of a crazy bubble that's going around. That's kind of a very specific to ecosystem also. Say for example, the kind of funding which a company can get in the US is far more crazy than say funding that is available in India. But one thing, if you note in all of these things is uh, at the crux of it is how much value you create. So the centerpiece of everything. Say for example, WhatsApp got acquired by Facebook for a few, I think $18 billion or something like that. This was a company which had like less than 30 employees. Okay, whereas you had Yahoo, which got acquired for $4.8 billion. This has been like the number one search engine for a while, and then after that they had so many patents, etc. So if you really look at what WhatsApp did, they actually could create so much value. So that is the first company on earth which was having which was going close to a billion users for the first time. So how they made it is kind of like what Naveen said. They were looking at the small aspects of it. They were trying to solve the problem. They were trying to solve connectivity. So even when people couldn't send a SMS, they could actually connect online and send a message. That was actually new. So for the generation today, I think they won't even appreciate this. That time, like we were kind of crazy with all these top up packs with 100 SMS free per day, and we used to send SMS, and that was like very annoying. You will not know whether it has gone to the other person. Like WhatsApp actually nailed every single problem with the conventional SMS had. Today, it is just a channel where you get spam. That's it, as simple as that. Conventional SMS is ruled out. So, if you look at Facebook, the kind of valuation, if you look at any big company, I think at the crux of it is creating value. So if you are able to create so much value that people want to come and participate, it's like Naveen is building a company, Pavan is building a company, Vaishali is building a company, which if I use my 1 hour of time, it gives me value worth tens of hundreds of hours. So whatever I could do in 100 hours, I actually can do it in 1 hour in using their products. Then I'd be happy to say my 100 hours is worth this much money. Okay, so if this product is costing less than that, I'd be ready to buy that. Now if you solve a problem which kind of
సాఫ్ట్వేర్ లేకపోతే
scalable,
కనుక
so
లైవ్
you
స్ట్రీమింగ్ అనేది
imagine
మీరు
like
ఏదైతే వెబ్ కామ్
every
ఉపయోగిస్తున్నారో
single person on earth would want this kind of a problem, would want a
ఆ
solution
వెబ్
for
క్యామ్
this kind of
ఉపయోగించి
a
కూడా
problem.
చేసుకోవచ్చు. కానీ
I think
ఓబిఎస్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్
your
ఉపయోగించడం
valuation
వల్ల
can go
మీ లైవ్ స్ట్రీమ్ యొక్క క్వాలిటీ
extremely
అదే
high.
విధంగా మీరు దాంట్లో
But
సబ్స్క్రైబర్స్
and then
ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు లైవ్ చాట్
there's also
చేయడానికి అన్ని
some
విధాలు కూడా బాగా హెల్ప్ఫుల్గా ఉంటుంది.
say
సో ఈ ఓబిఎస్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ అంటే ఏంటి,
heads
అది
up
ఏ
from
విధంగా
Vaishali
పనిచేస్తుంది,
regarding
యూట్యూబ్లో లైవ్ స్ట్రీమ్కి
all
దాన్ని ఏ
these
విధంగా కనెక్ట్ చేయాలనేది ఈ
fancy
రోజు వీడియోలో
icons,
మీకు
etc.
క్లియర్గా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్
So
చేస్తాను. సో మీరు
if
కనుక ఈ
you
వీడియో
know
ఫస్ట్
that
టైం చూస్తే తప్పకుండా సందీప్
for
360
every
టెక్ యూట్యూబ్ ఛానల్
say
సబ్స్క్రైబ్
$1
చేసుకొని
billion
అలాగే
valuation
పక్కనే ఉన్న బెల్
company, there
ఐకాన్ని
have been
ఇప్పుడు
so
నేను
many other
క్లియర్గా
companies which have
చూపించబోతున్నాను.
shut down. So that is one part. I'm not
దీంట్లో మీరు
demotivating,
స్క్రీన్
I'm just
రికార్డింగ్
saying these are the
చేసుకోవచ్చు.
facts. The other thing is each of these company would have built over a period of time. It is not like a overnight success, like what Vaishali said. Every overnight success had like say a few years, like 10 years or 5 years worth of hard work and toil, etc. So I think it is definitely a thrilling thing. So when you start a startup, like many of the mature mentors, so even for us, our mentors were asking like, what is the exit you want? Like, what kind of, how do you want to see your company after 10 years? Do you want to make it listed in the BSE and NSE stock market, or do you want to actually sell the company to somebody else? Do you want to actually like keep going, growing and adding more more products to the portfolio, etc. These are very critical points to think. These are definitely like the pros of being an entrepreneur. I don't think if you are an employee in a company, you get to look at even or like think about these kind of interesting things. But you should know that you have to wait it out and never stop creating exponential amount of value.
Great. Vaishali?
So I equate funding and this whole process with a very simple analogy, which I read somewhere. So I believe a startup journey is like taking a road trip. You need, you're in a car, you need fuel to run the car, but your journey is not about how many petrol pumps you visited. It's not about how much fuel you filled in. And that's not your destination. Your destination is something else. This is the fuel you need for the journey. And a lot of us get so lost in, oh, this person picked up that much money and this company got this much funding. Firstly, you don't even know what the terms of their funding was. So there's no point in comparison. You don't know whether it was an acqui-hire, whether it was an acquire. You don't know whether they sold like 90% of the company. You don't know anything. So you don't even begin comparing. The media likes putting these numbers and names out because they have something to write about. What you get from it is what what you want to learn. Okay, so what you would like to think is, okay, so this kind of industry or this kind of company is being valued at this much. What do I learn from that, right? It's not about, oh, this guy raised $10 million, I've raised nothing, I'm a failure. That's not how this should be looked at. And again, like I said, funding is not your destination. It's part of your process. Your goal is something else. This is something necessary if it's required for you to fuel up, but it's not at all your destination. So don't ever confuse that, to everybody who's starting up. And the other thing I want to talk about is regarding valuation. Like Ram said, it's all like, it could be anything, like from 0 to 100, based on so many things. Even people in the industry often have no idea what these valuations are based on. In fact, the other day, Elon Musk, you must have heard of the Tesla founder. He tweeted that he thinks Tesla is overvalued, and the next day, their stocks fell incredibly, and they lost a lot of money in that. So, on paper, of course, it's paper value. So the idea is, don't run behind valuations. If you are creating something, the one thing you need to focus on in creating a business, building a business, is the value you're creating for your customer. And for your team, for your employees. That's really what matters in the long run. Investors come and go, public comes and goes, media will come and go, fame and money and all of that it'll come and go. But what matters is the value, going back to the beginning of this conversation, the value that you are creating, the value that you're building an ecosystem out of. That's really what you should keep your focus on. Other things will follow.
Okay, great. So one question that has come up, like especially again for you, Vaishali, you being the women in the entrepreneur circle, which they still are what you call at minority. How
Right.
do your take as an entrepreneur with women being there in the tech industry as a CEO?
Mhm.
How is that the whole experience, whole journey, and what are the things which you have faced for all the girls? There are quite a few girls who have joined the session who would really like to listen it from you.
Right. One thing that I would like to bring up here is, and I'm glad that Pawan from the beginning has described me as an entrepreneur. A lot of times people call me a woman entrepreneur, which I find quite interesting because I have never heard the term man entrepreneur. I don't know if any of you have. They define us with our gender first, and then they say, this person is an entrepreneur, but let me define their gender first. So, a man is an entrepreneur by default, but the woman has to be a woman entrepreneur. And this is one of the biggest issues I find around entrepreneurship and how gender is seen here. There is a huge difference between equity and equality, and I want everybody who's in on this conversation to please Google this. And I don't know if any of you have seen that image of three children trying to look at a football match, and they're all standing. So there's one who's standing on the ground, then there's another one who's shorter who needs to stand on a small stool. So now they're at equal height, but he's still unable to see to see the game. And then there's a third one who been given that impetus, but he's sort of been lifted above the other two. So in this case, you see that okay, equality will be getting everybody, giving everybody a stool and getting them, giving them the same opportunity. But equity is about giving more to the one who really needs it, giving that extra push, that extra impetus, but remembering that you still do it, to achieve the same objective, to not put them on the other side of the field, which a lot of organizations today do, right? When you call a woman an entrepreneur, you're equalizing this, so you're bringing them into the same fold as everybody else. But when you demarcate them, sometimes it may be needed because you have to give that extra impetus, extra push, because a lot of women in entrepreneurship are a minority. But when your goal becomes just around that, then you're going against the entire objective. If you're bringing gender into this entire equation, just to glorify the gender bit, it's not serving any purpose. And so what we see here is, we're all students. I mean, all of the people who are attending this conversation, you go to a college, you go to class, you will have male and female both in the classroom, right? When you attend a conference or a webinar of this sort, or you attend an internship, or there are any opportunities around you, next time you're there, why don't you start inviting some of your female friends also, and then you see how the audience numbers change. And then if there is more equality in terms of, okay, so if there are lesser women coming, like I said, you give that impetus to bring it to an equity discussion where you invite specific female friends of yours to come with you to get that opportunity with you. And when it comes to women themselves, I would say, going back to the first thing I talked about with entrepreneurship itself, is having self-belief. You believe that you have in you, then your gender is your strength. You are, all of you is who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're male, whether you're female, whether you're in engineering, whether you're doing some other degree. What matters is whether you think you can do it, so you will do it. And whatever is out there, know that there is a difference between equity and equality. If there is a push which is needed, it is needed. But remember that it's about getting to those equal opportunities. It's not about trying to be superior to anybody else. It's not about taking advantage or putting down any other people. And it's about being able to give that respect to yourself and believe in yourself and know that what you're doing is right for you, and you bring all of yourself to that table, everything that you are. And if you're a woman, you bring that on as a strength. And and as in fact, it's interesting you pointed out, Pawan, that there's such few women in tech companies today in terms of starting up. And if you actually see, there was the start of computers in the US. Every programmer was actually a woman. They were called the computer girls, because the men were the ones behind hardware. Women did all the programming. If you've ever seen those old movies where there are all these women, doing switchboard communication, that's essentially what the beginning of programming was, right? It was basically data input with levers, and with, and then later punch cards, and then it became languages. So it was actually women who were the first computer programmers. And there was a phased and very
PPT is fine.
concrete and
Yes,
intentional
sir.
attempt at then
PPT is
making this
fine while
entirely
you're
male
sharing
dominated,
information, sir.
and creating the image of the typical coder that we have today. This geek who's antisocial, who wears glasses, who's playing video games and who has no social life, and this kind of image was created, and it became a male dominated system because we made it that way. That's what patriarchy does. And now, of course, there's a lot of effort to bring more women back into the fold. In India, in fact, we have great figures around the kind of the number of women who are taking computer science and other engineering subjects as compared to men. It's almost equal today. Again, it doesn't translate too much into the job environment, and there are many other reasons for that. I think the time isn't enough to get into those conversations. But I think that this entire corona situation is also helping equalize domestic duties, and so women don't have to be super women, and then they can balance work and home life as everybody else in the house is doing too. I think it's good learning. That's something you need to create a sustainable environment, right? We can't be super women. And so, yeah, so I would just say, to the women, believe in yourselves, use your gender as a strength. And I would tell the men, please, understand that, I mean, of course, coming from your point of view, you may not really get it, but see the women around you, your sisters, your friends, and see that there is an impetus that these women need, and you are in the right place to be able to give it. And you're not losing anything in doing it. In fact, you're all growing together. We're all frogs in a well. We get out of the well by lifting each other up. Let's put our hands out and not our feet and trip somebody else up, because that's not going to get anybody anywhere. Let's just, go out together. And that's essentially the idea. So yeah, that's essentially how I would talk about women in
Great. Thanks a lot, Vaishali. I have no other point to add or summarize. Mindset is the thought process and all those things. What are your suggestions for the student community which they should be doing during their college days with the current scenario putting into the perspective? What they should be working towards, how they should nurture themselves to be the future entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think Ram and Vaishali has covered almost all the parts of it. But two important points which I feel like, okay, if I tell it the last, students will have in their minds.
Take home
Go
message.
ahead. Yeah, take home takeaways. Students, at every point of time, okay, every moment in your college, keep experimenting, okay, going ahead, going forward, and getting into all the events, all the ways where you have to come out of your comfort zone, and you should feel like you are not in that comfort zone. That's it. You keep that as a metric for you on a daily basis. Keep that as a metric of you should never be in your comfort zone. Go out of it, okay, try something new, okay, just ask yourself today, okay, how many days it has been you trying something new which is very difficult for you. If you ask that one question, it is more than enough, guys. And somebody was asking in the chat that did you experience any of these kind of situations, the present COVID situations, and how to tackle them? Okay, guys, you should feel more lucky to have such situations, and you are in that situation, so that you will now try to come out of it, and that will become a wonderful experience for you. And if such experiences are not there for you, then it will become a very big problem in the future. So feel lucky to be in this problem and try ways to come out of this problem. And the day you come out, you're on cloud 9.